Hey everybody. So it's a beautiful day here in Guangdong, China, and just thought I should come out here and talk about why I feel like the world actually needs China, and of course, China needs the world. So, about 30 years ago, we all know China was a very poor country, struggling and with so many difficulties. That's the truth, and I'm sure everyone knows this. But 30 years later, when we look at it critically, we can see how far China has come. We can easily realize that China has really grown so much over the past years, and it's really outstanding. It's something that we all can definitely learn from. It's really amazing how far China has come from a struggling country, a struggling economy, to one of the world's biggest powers today. And the truth is that China still has its problems, but it is nowhere near what the media tells so many people every single day. Now, even though China has grown this much over the past decades, there's still so many hurdles that China is experiencing. And I think it's affecting you and I, it's affecting the world in general. Take, for example, there have been so many different sanctions, tariffs from the United States, through the EU, from the G7 nations. They have all been placing sanctions and tariffs on China, which is insane when you think about it. So the big question right now is, can we all just work together? Can the world actually work together? Can China work with the United States? Can the European Union work with China? Can African countries work with China? Can we all work together? And I feel like it's very possible for us to work together. Because lately, if we all look around the world, we'll realize that there's so much hate and fighting amongst countries as compared to collaboration. And after living here in China for more than 6 years, I personally feel like there's so much that the world can learn from China. There's so many reasons why the world needs China. First, we can see the aspect of production. When it comes to production, when it comes to manufacturing, we all know China is the global manufacturer. China is the world's manufacturer. China has so many factories, so many companies that produce a whole lot of stuff, as we can see, for example, lately with the electric vehicles, which are going all around the world right now, which is still experiencing so many different hurdles from the Western countries. I feel like with China's production capability, there's so much that the world in general can learn from China's production. And I believe that's because China has really invested in their STEM education. There's a whole lot of technological advancements here in China, which is definitely leading to more production capability and more output here in China, which of course helps the world. So I believe that if we can just think about working together more and fighting less, just like recently in the United States, where the Biden administration placed a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs to the United States. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. Of course, I understand it's to protect their own domestic car manufacturers, but when we say 100% tariffs on imports from China, that's really, I feel like that's kind of outrageous because I think competition should be fair. So in general, I think there can definitely be more exchange of ideas between China and many countries to be able to help boost other factories all around the world, to be able to boost car manufacturing in many countries around the world, especially in countries located in Africa, in South America, and of course across Europe. Normally, we all know the United States and Europe has always dominated in the car manufacturing. But as China's economy has been growing at a geometric rate and lots of aspects have been improving here in China, I think China has really outdone itself and, of course, surpassed many car manufacturers around the world, and not just in the car sector, in many different sectors like clean energy, of course, and of course, different types of production capabilities. So I think with China's production power and production capability over the years, there's so much we all can definitely learn from China to be able to grow our own local industries. And when I'm talking about production, it's not just about the production capability of China, because China has over 1.4 billion people, the second most populated country in the world after India. And when we look at this critically, we can also realize that China has a huge market for goods that come from China. Because, of course, for example, China needs raw materials. Many African countries have access to raw materials. which definitely means that if China needs these raw materials and China can buy from these countries can also benefit. And of course, China also imports a couple of stuffs from the United States and from the European Union. So I believe that if our countries can work together with China, there will be more benefits than losses. Because with the 1.4 billion people here in China, China's purchase capability, China's buying capability has definitely improved geometrically over the past years. And with the huge number of consumers here in China, if we can all work together and do more exchange with less tariffs, I believe that our economies will definitely benefit. Because when we talk about business between countries, it's not just a one way business. Many countries can definitely benefit from each other. China has the production capability, and other countries also have the production capability. So I believe a reasonable exchange will definitely help all economies. And by helping all economies, it isn't just in the sectors of production and manufacturing or purchasing. No, it's not just in these sectors. I feel like there are so many other sectors where we all can learn from China, we all can work with China to be able to grow our own local economies. For example, if China has grown this much over the past 3 decades, we can all realize that there's something that China must have done, which definitely makes them stand out from other countries around the world. Many countries around the world were much better than China about 30 years ago, about 40 years ago. Some countries in Africa were far more better than China about 3 decades ago. Many countries, like here in Asia, India, for example, and other countries around the world, were far more better than China over 3 decades ago. But right now, China has emerged to be one of the world's global powers, making very, very important and vital decisions that the global economies. So, what did China really do differently? How come China got to this level? So, there's definitely something that we all can learn from China, which is why I believe that the world needs China to be able to learn how China achieved this milestone. Because if China can achieve this milestone for the economy, then I feel like we all can do the same. And let's take, for example, the aspect of safety here in China. A couple of years back, China wasn't really safe. There were so many things happening. There was theft and troubles, and there was no stability here in China. But China has grown to overcome this instability. China has grown to build a society that is really safe for everybody. And many countries are currently at the point where China was over a couple of decades back. So I believe if China could overcome these difficulties, we can learn what China did and how they actually succeeded in overcoming these aspects for our own countries, of course, and it's going to help our economy because now, since China is a safe country, it attracts many investors, it attracts many businesses, and many manufacturers, of course, from all over the world. This tends to boost the economy. So I feel like if we have safety in our countries, like China, we can definitely boost our economies. So we can learn this from China. We should learn this from China. And of course, when we learn this from China, it will in turn help to develop our own various countries. Now, when we talk about production or the market capabilities or how far China has come, it's no lies that China is currently the world's supplier. From Asia through Europe, across Africa, across the Americas, of course, South America and North America, China supplies many different types of goods, of course, consumer goods and manufacturing goods every single day, every single year. And with China supplying all these affordable consumer goods all around the world, it has helped to make it possible for even struggling households, struggling families to be able to afford luxurious goods which they never dreamed that they could afford before. Now, when we look at the world today, coupled with China's growth, we can easily realize that as China has been growing, it's been pulling many countries alongside, and that has been helping many other citizens of different countries to be able to afford goods that we thought in the past were just for rich people, were just for the rich families, maybe the top 1%. But lately, most of these goods are affordable, and that is thanks to China. We can all afford many amazing stuffs like 4K, flat screen TVs, affordable EVs, less than $30,000, now probably $10,000 EVs, which has made it very, very possible for everyone to live a good life, to be able to afford a luxurious life. And it even includes clean energy products. Look at solar energy, for example. Many countries right now, many citizens of many countries are now able to afford clean energy products, solar panels, and using sunlight to get electricity in their homes. So personally, I feel like for the fact that China has made it possible for even struggling families to be able to afford amazing products. And before you talk about the low quality products in China and this and that, we need to understand that China has different grades of products. China has different types of products. But yet, there are many amazing products here in China which are made from China. Most of the products in your home are made in China. You might not even know it, but it's made in China. iPhones made in China. Many different aspects of our lives are made in China. So when we look at all of this critically, we can see that China is definitely here to save the world, to help the world. And the funniest part about it all is that in the past, many people were saying China is causing pollution in the world, China is destroying the ecosystem, China is destroying the biodiversity, and that was a very serious issue. Many governments had so many issues with China back then, and recently China has been switching to clean energy, switching to energy that creates less pollution. More people still have a problem with China getting to this point and changing or switching to clean energy. So I feel like there's so much the world needs from China. There's so much we all can learn from China. But China's manufacturing and China itself has been facing lots of hurdles due to the multiple sanctions, multiple tariffs, multiple bans. And I think we can definitely achieve so much more if these aspects of bans and controls are really limited. Now, although the world needs China, I feel like China also needs the world. Look at the aspect of raw materials, for example. China is not an island. China needs other countries to be able to grow. Reason why I believe that China also needs the world. China needs African countries. China needs the United States. China needs South America. China needs the European countries because, like I said earlier, China is a world manufacturer. But China can't consume all the goods that they produce. Reason why they need the world to be able to buy these products. So in general, if we all work together, it will definitely be a win-win for everyone. China, the United States, African countries, we can definitely achieve so much more. Personally, I feel like we need to fight against the hate in the world. There's no need bashing one country or bashing another country for one reason or the other. There's no perfect country. Every country has its flaws. Every country has its downsides. But I think China is definitely helping the world. China has helped so many developing countries over the years. So we need to acknowledge that and then we need to work together. And let's hope for the best. Like this video, subscribe to this channel for so much more. Remember, this is Willene. See you next time. Whoa, it's raining.